Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a deer in a forest. Actually, it's an elk, I was told, so let's get it right. So I'll show you step by step how to do it from start to finish tonight. I've got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's man in chat, so if you've got questions while I'm painting, you can ask those and we'll try to answer. Let's get started. Alrighty, so I'm using a 9 by 12 inch canvas tonight. This is the Fredrix Mixed Media Canvas board, and I've painted it with a light coat of yellow oxide. I added a little bit of water and some glazing medium to make it stick really well, and then painted it on really smooth and very thin, so it's kind of transparent. For our brushes tonight, you're going to want to have a large flat brush for the background. We're going to mainly do the background in kind of yellow. It'll be kind of an analogous color scheme, so yellow to red and some browns in there will be our main colors. I'll go over those here in a minute, but as far as brushes go, I'm going to want to use a sponge or a large stippler. You could use something like one of these large gesso brushes that have some texture to them for some of this background texture, but a lot of it is not going to be visible. We may do some of our foreground trees with a sponge, so a nice sea sponge like this is helpful to have. And I'm also going to be using a Deerfoot Stippler, which is this one, and possibly a fan brush for some of the other foliage tonight. So those will be our main foliage brushes. And then for our deer, we're going to want to have kind of like a small round brush. I've got a 4 round here, and I've also got a script liner for some of the smaller branches. I'm not going to do a ton of branches in here, but I'm going to want to do a few at least. And then I've got a couple of other foliage brushes. These are called blenders. They're kind of a rounded Filbert, and the Princeton VelvetTouch line here, 1/4 inch and 3/8 inch. If I use them, I will mention them a little bit more. And then I've also got a couple of angle brushes there in the 1/4 inch and 3/8 inch size. You probably don't need all of these brushes. I'm not really sure exactly which ones I'm going to use, but like I said, I'll mention them as we use them. Let's go over our colors really quick. Carbon black, burnt umber, burnt sienna, yellow oxide, that was the background color, Indian yellow hue, cadmium yellow light, the cadmium red light, quinacridone magenta, ultramarine blue, unbleached titanium, titanium white, and gloss glazing liquid. If we were going to simplify this palette, we might be able to do away with these 2 colors and these 2 and just substitute for a cadmium red medium. And that would probably work with this. I went ahead and put in the magenta and the cadmium red light because I get a more full spectrum of reds that way. I can go kind of a little cooler with the magenta, or with a little bit warmer with the orangey red here, the cadmium red light. And then as far as the yellows, kind of same goes. I can go a little bit, get a little bit more color and maybe a little bit brighter yellow in the background here by using some of these other yellows. So again, if you don't have all these colors, you can kind of substitute and use what you've got. It'll be fine. All right, and I'm doing the blue just to have another color, but we could probably do it without the blue as well. So, all right, hope you guys are doing well. Glad to have you join us.
I'm sorry.
Nothing. I wasn't talking to you. I was saying hi to everybody. Mark's like, what? What did I do? Need something? No.
Yeah, I can hear feedback.
You can hear feedback.
And it's not going through, so I'm just trying to figure out where it's coming from.
Somebody was saying they were hearing an echo the other day, but then I think they had 2 devices open at the same time. So maybe you have 2 devices open. That's my guess.
No.
No. Okay. Well,
but thanks for playing.
Thanks for playing. Where's that noise coming from?
Thanks, artist. You stay over there. You do your job.
Hey, now I did this by myself for a long time. I set up all
And-
that stuff except
And
for
very
the sound.
well. Very, very well.
I know enough to get in trouble. All right. So I started out with the yellow because that'll just kind of give us a head start. It's not always nice to have like a ground on your canvas. It helps you with your values. So you kind of next time now when I put this light yellow on, I'll kind of know it would look, I might go a little too dark with it if I didn't have this medium yellow on here. When I do this next step. So I'm going to get a little bit of the cadmium yellow light and a little bit of the Indian yellow hue. The Indian yellow hue's got a little bit of warmer tone to it. Again, probably don't need both of those, but you know, I just grabbed them just in case. You never know. All right, so I'm going to mix up a fairly good amount of this yellow because I'm going to need a lot of it to cover most of my canvas here. And let's go ahead and kind of just mark out with some chalk where our main things are going to go on here. So our deer is kind of setting on a hillside. By the way, I got the main photo from an artist called Lori Lohi on Instagram. Paid him to use this photo, so thank you to Lori. I forgot to link down his Instagram, but I'll do that after the show. We used several of his paintings, or not paintings, images in paintings over the last couple of years. And this one was one I added the deer very badly photoshopped. Don't look at it too closely. One thing I would say is I noticed when I photoshopped it that there was something that I wanted to mention to you guys in case you are photoshopping something. Zoom in on that really quick, and I wanted to show what the problem with this. There's something wrong with this. Okay, so do you see what it is?
There is no tank in the background.
This tree is in the foreground.
Oh, it is.
And he's farther back. If these were side by side, this could be behind his antlers, but because it is in the foreground, his feet are ending, somewhere in here. They're down in this. I'm saying that they're down in the leaves, because the photo I had, he was in snow, I think, or something, and I cut off the bottom of his legs. Anyhow, if they were side by side, the tree could be behind the antlers, but because it's in the foreground here, it would be in front of him here. So when we do our thing, we're just gonna probably take that tree out and move it somewhere else. Just so keep an eye on that when you're photoshopping. You want to kind of also obey the laws of physics, or whatever it is there. I don't know if that's physics, but you get the idea. The laws of nature.
The laws of nature.
Yes.
I like that.
Okay, so there's kind of our main things. I think I'm going to darken up these sides and kind of give it a little vignette feeling. Also, I cropped it so that the tree on this side was, I'm going to need to zoom back out there, honey.
Oh.
There we go. Yep. And I'm going to keep the light color kind of mostly in the middle here, and then I'm going to use some of the yellow oxide out toward the edges. And I've got this hillside here. I'm going to switch over to darker, but I'm kind of going over the top of it. It's fine. We'll be putting the red leaves over the top of it as we get closer to that area. So let's go ahead and do that. And then around the edges, I'm just going to get a little bit more of that Indian yellow, or not Indian yellow, yellow oxide and Indian yellow, both. And it's actually kind of gray, so I may add that here in a minute, but I'm going to kind of start with this just to kind of blend that out into what we've already got, and then I'll add the gray here in a minute. So I'm going to add that toward the top. This is still wet, so it'll I did do this quickly so that your paint is still wet there. You can add a little bit of glazing medium if you need to give yourself a little bit extra drying time. If you add it to this, just a little bit of it, you don't want it to be transparent. So if you add too much, it'll make it transparent, but just a little bit will give you a little extra blending time here. And this is going to be kind of upper canopy trees, so we're going to have a lot of foliage and things coming up over that. So, and if you wanted to, you could paint your background over the top of the white with this coat, just like I'm doing here. That would be fine. It's not going to hurt anything. But yeah, that looks good. Boy, that looks super bright. It's not as bright as it looks like. My thing here is making it look a little bit brighter than it is. But I'm going to let that dry. While that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and mix up my gray, which is going to be my burnt umber. I'm going to get about 50-50 burnt umber and ultramarine blue. Some ultramarine blues are a little bit more purple than others, and same thing with the burnt umber. So if you get a burnt umber that is kind of purple and this color goes purple instead of gray, you can add a little bit of burnt umber, or even like a raw umber if you have it. Not burnt umber, black. You can add black to this to make it more gray, to take that purple tone out of it. You could even add yellow to it to tone down the purple, since yellow and purple are opposite on the color wheel. If you have any kind of color that is too strong and you want to neutralize it a little bit, you add that opposite on the color wheel. That always can help with that. All right, so there we go. There's our dark gray. And then when we add this to this color, it'll be a nice gray to use in our background. So we'll see what that looks like. So that mixed with our yellow, depending on how much of the ultramarine blue we use, we might get a slight green tint to it. If you don't want green, you can add more of the brown. That's up to you. But if I was to mix black with yellow, I would for sure get a green. So this way I can kind of control how green it is. That looks really nice. I think I might even add warm it up a little bit and add a little bit of burnt sienna to it. That'll give it a little bit of a reddish tone too. And yeah, I don't think I'm going to do anything with that. I think I'm going to actually use this sponge. So I got a little bit of water on my sponge and I squeeze it until it's completely dry, or not dry, but all of the dripping moisture is out of it. I don't want any water to be coming out of it as I squeeze it. And I'm just going to pull that paint right off of that brush. Stick that in there, and I'm going to use that paint right there that I just mixed that had the gray. Probably not going to be enough, but I just kind of wanted to test that color. Oh, that's really nice. See how? So it should be like maybe two shades darker than our background. If you want to look on here. So our background's going to be like in here, this yellow. The mid-tone yellow is probably closer to kind of in between here. And so this color should be falling somewhere in here. If you have one of these and want to use it, it'll kind of help you kind of gauge how dark you want to go with this. Really nice. This makes super easy foliage, very subtle pattern. Be great. I think this is actually going to be plenty. It's going on here since this light yellow is such a light color. It's going on here really nicely, showing up really nicely on this yellow. And I'm not really worried about the yellow being dry at this point. This will blend with it a little bit. If it does, that's okay. I'm not going to be sad about that. Okay, that looks good. Looks good. I'm kind of trying to get the impression that the trees are coming from the sides, so leaving just a little bit of this area right around where my deer is going to be with less of this color. That makes sense. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to get a little bit more of that burnt sienna. And actually want to start mixing up some red. So I'm going to grab a pretty good amount of my Cadmium Red Light and my magenta. I'm going to make a nice bright red. This will be like a cadmium red color, like a cadmium red medium, or like a pyro red medium, something like that. It's probably on the little bit on the red or on the orange side, probably a little bit more of the cadmium red light in there. That looks really good. I like it. All right, and then I'm going to grab up some of it, take it over here, and add more of the magenta to it. So I've got a magenta red and a more orangey red. Really nice. Maybe a little bit more. Very good. Okay. That's like a fire engine red. Whenever you mix it up, you always want to scrape it up on your palette knife and then set your palette knife down and try not to move it and just kind of smush that paint down like that. Just kind of twist it in place so that you get it in the smallest area possible. That'll keep it dry, keep it wet longer for you. Keep it from drying out as quickly. And then I'm going to get some burnt sienna and magenta, which will be like a quinacridone burnt orange type color. Magenta and burnt sienna make a quinacridone burnt orange color, which is one of my favorite colors, but it's been discontinued, so we're trying to not use it when I don't have to. I still pull it out sometimes. I still have a couple of tubes, but I'm like hoarding them.
So what if we drive up to New York and picket and protest outside of Golden's facility? I think
It's not their fault. They can't get the pigment.
It's irrelevant if it's their fault or not. We need to go and
I know.
picket.
I don't know who we'd have to picket the pigment manufacturers who you'd have to go after. And I'm not really sure who that would be. Probably somewhere in India or someplace like that.
Hey, now don't be saying that. We got some fine folks in India.
No, I'm just
not gonna
saying
blame
I
them.
think that's honestly where it was manufactured at.
Oh.
So
Well, we got some connections in chat right now from India. We'll see if
Okay.
they can do something for us.
maybe.
Send us pictures of you picketing outside
I could be
the
totally wrong, and if
pigment
I am, I'm
place.
sorry, India, but I thought that that's where it was from. I'm
And
probably making that up.
and the eclipse was this morning.
Oh, it
Not-
was?
yeah.
Oh, you missed it.
Yeah, and it was cloudy here anyways.
Okay.
So anyway.
Okay, so then I added the burnt sienna here, so I've got a deeper red. It's really not that dark, so I'm probably going to need to add a little bit of black to it over here. Make a nice dark version. Little tiny bit of black. You don't need a lot, because you still want it to look red. So if you add too much black, it'll just look black. I still want it to have that reddish tone, but black's a really good color to use to mix dark red. It does really nice things, and I think it's because it's got so much blue in black. Blacks have a lot of blue undertones in them, and it's always makes really lovely dark reds because of that, I think. Just slightly purple undertones. Okay. Here we go. All right, so we've got a nice string of reds here to use, and I've got my sponge all ready to go, and I'm going to actually want an orange too, so I'm going to grab my yellows here and then just mix in a little bit of, let me see what I want to grab. I think I'm going to grab a little bit of the burnt sienna, which was kind of what I was using with this color before. And before I do anything else, I want to spray because my palette has fresh paint on it, and I want to make sure I have a good... Okay, so get in a little bit of that red. Okay, so burnt sienna and my 2 yellows. Really, I could use all 3. It doesn't really matter. And then a little tiny touch of this red here. So I'm going to slowly go like darker as I go up. Oh, this is nice. What a nice color. Really pretty. And if it's too saturated, you can add a little gray to it too, and I might do that in some places. So I'm getting this kind of weird thick part. I think it's coming from right there, so I'm going to try to squeeze it so it's not touching so much on that spot.
I see that in my midsection when I look in the mirror.
What?
A weird thick spot.
Weird thick spot? Mm.
Can't beat all the cookies.
No comment. All right, so I'm going to use some of this too in the distance along this hillside here. So just kind of pick my spot for my hillside to start and just kind of tap in along there. And I might, I'm going to get a little bit of this lighter yellow here. And try to kind of tap in over that spot there with a little bit of that background white too. There we go. The UPS guy. It's always fun. All right. Gonna get some of the red now, the Cadmium Red Light. And actually, before I do any more, I'm gonna go ahead and put on my tree trunks because I need tree trunks in the background and also in the foreground. So probably do 3 levels of tree trunks and tree and foliage in between them. So just picking out a brush here. I think I'm gonna just go ahead and use this one that we had. And I'm gonna grab some of this gray and some of the yellow. So I'm gonna try to get this color here that we had. A little bit of burnt sienna. What was it?
Stickers.
Ooh, what did I get? Let me see. Get them, pull them out.
Get some scissors. Be right back.
I have some right here.
Off camera, Angela speared the handle of the scissors with her paintbrush.
Yeah. Okay, that's a little dark. So I'm going to go a little bit lighter. I don't want it that much darker. Okay. I'm not worried about this bottom part. I'll make it fade out. I'm just trying to keep them kind of thin. Let's go ahead and put a little. One thing with these tree trunks you want to do is to make sure that they're a little thicker on the bottom than at the top, so they should thin out as they go up.
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh, nice. A little bee stickers.
Here's your little simple one. Or do you need to show those numbers?
No, I don't. I don't have them for sale. If you guys want me to put them for sale, let me know in the comments. I've thought about putting them on Etsy, but I have a ton of my flowers. I use them for myself. I just do them because I like them and they're fun. I give them away to people, and if you buy one of my paintings, I usually put them in the package with the painting. But I haven't been doing a sale this year yet, So, okay, that looks great. I mean, we could just do this. This is great without even anything else in it. I really love these colors.
That does look awesome.
Really, really pretty. That yellow and the gray.
That does look cool.
Really pretty. Okay, so, and to do that, the tree trunks, you just need a brush that doesn't fuzz out. Like if I had a really fuzzy brush, this wouldn't work as well. But because this one holds a really nice line, all I have to do is just kind of use that straight edge. And it actually is easier, I find, to make a straight line with a flat brush than with a round brush. Because with a round brush, you can, end up wiggling, which is fine with trees, obviously, they don't have to be perfectly straight. But I just find that it's easier to get a nice straight line. Plus, this holds so much more paint. So you're having to reload every time you want to make a tree. And this one, with one load, I could do all these trees. So that's why I tend to grab my liner brushes. I am going to do one thing, though, because I'm already kind of making a mess of my hands. I'm going to get some gloves on. It's just smart to protect yourself, especially since I'm using cadmium paints. Although cadmiums, they're toxic if in airborne form, but when they're put in paints like this, they're not going to get in your lungs. Like that's the concern with using cadmiums. So you should be totally fine and safe using them in your paints, as long as you're not ingesting them or something like that. I mean, but I still don't like to get them on my skin. Just in case, you never know. I don't want to be 20 years from now and them going, everybody who was using those cadmiums, whatever. So, well, yeah, we just found out. I don't want to be anybody's guinea pig.
Can you
Okay.
Can you discuss briefly the ring situation?
I know. I went a little overboard, didn't I? I kind of got... I found a new website that had some really cute rings.
And I can't believe it.
That did go a little overboard.
You haven't been known to do anything like that before.
I know. They are really pretty. They're called Boho Magic. And yeah, they have a lot
they're
of
cool.
really fun...
Yeah.
I'm going to take it off for the glove.
Okay.
But...
So are you going to have like 3 plastic container holder things, double-sided, for all your rings to go along with your nail polish?
We'll just have a few here. We got some fun ones that we'll be pulling out here in the weeks to come. Although I found a lot of the same type, not the same ones, but a little bit cheaper on Etsy. So if you want to wait and get them from India, but that's an American company, so I don't mind spending a little bit more to get homemade stuff. And I know that they're genuine. All right. There we go. So that looks good. I'm just kind of waiting for that to dry a little bit too. Okay, so that's good. I'm not really worried about this too much. We'll just put in some foliage over that and it'll cover it up. So let's go ahead and go over the next layer here with, and I'm kind of hitting the same spots if you see. So I've done the dark. So, because if I don't do that, what I could end up doing is covering all of this light color up. So I'm trying to kind of hit the same general spots as I've hit before, and leaving a little bit of that background showing each time. So there we go. We're doing good here. This is actually pretty bright. So I may get some of the more neutral color here and add it to some of my yellow oxide. So this was the one that had the burnt sienna in it. I'm going to use some of that. Yeah, that's a little softer, see? So I'm going to use some of that. And the background ones here, I'm not needing there to be a whole lot of detail, so I'm just going to go ahead and use this sponge, but I think this is probably going to be my last layer that I use the sponge. because I want to start getting a little bit more detail in these leaves here, a little bit more individual leaves. So, and again, kind of creating this rounded shape here. Nice. Don't cover up all my previous layers though. Okay, I like that. Let's go ahead and use this in my foreground here. So this is where I want to go right up to the top of those trees that I did, so that I'm hiding the bottom of them. So those tree trunks that were in there, you see how it did? They'll just be hidden right there. Okay. And just tapping all the way down. All right, then I'm going to get my darker red here. Do the next layer just below. And then my really dark. And the bottom here. And up the sides. I'm trying to really keep this one very like beginner friendly, so I'm not gonna go crazy with the details on this one. I think we're gonna try to keep it really something that I think just about anybody could do with the right colors and tools. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and use some of this brighter red. I'm gonna do one more layer of tree trunks, I think, before I do that. So I'm gonna get a little bit of that burnt umber and ultramarine blue mixture, that gray that we mixed, and add some of that same gray that we used before, and just find a couple spots here where I can do a kind of mid ground. So we've got distant, mid, about halfway down maybe, and then the foreground will have our trees that are going all the way off the edge on the front. So mid ground here. And we'll do some that are a little bit curved maybe. There we go. That's a nice color. I like it. I think I am going to switch to a round brush though. So our deer's going to be in here, so I don't need too much of this darker tone. But I do think I'm going to put like maybe one right in here. And you can see how I kind of have some that are like it got real thin right here and up in here. So I'm going to try to even out that size and make sure that I'm pushing down a little bit harder as I come down, so that I start to get wider as I come down. There we go. Now we have more even. And I'm just going to kind of use my finger and sort of rub that out a little bit at the base to kind of disappear it down into my red trees, and can kind of tap over it a little bit. Okay, looks nice. Okay, and then let's go ahead and use this brush and do a few smaller little branches up here. Don't goes kind of just slightly wider as it comes off of the tree trunk too. So I'm going to kind of widen that out just a little bit right there. And you can have some coming across too. I might do that. Again, make sure that I'm widening them out as they go down toward the tree. I don't want any that are getting thinner in the middle and then thicker. I don't want our branches to have an hourglass shape. That doesn't really happen.
Hey, what do you call a polar bear in the jungle?
What?
Lost.
Good. Okay.
Like that?
That was actually pretty funny. Oh, jeez. You're using your sound machine. Marky.
Money well spent.
Okay, just kind of adding a little bit of white tone, but I think that's pretty good. I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna go crazy with all the trees. And then let's go ahead and go a little bit darker. Actually, I'm gonna do one more layer of branches that are more detailed. So I think I'm going to try using this brush. If this doesn't work, I'll just do them by hand. So this brush, I'm not adding water to it. This is a Deerfoot Stippler. It's meant to be used dry. I think this is going to work okay. And when I load it up round, but I only touch the tip down. So I use it with the tip pointing down. And let's go ahead and just kind of use it to put in some tree branches here, or tree foliage, I should say. I'm going to use a little bit of that darker red too. Especially where it's going to go over the dark part of the tree. Having a little bit of this darker red foliage will help so that it doesn't look transparent where it's crossing over the tree. I don't mind going really dark along this edge too. So see how you can see through that area right there where that tree trunk is? So either need to go back and go back over it with my tree trunk color, or just make sure that I've got a darker color that's going to cover that up with my tree. Could add a little bit of white to my red, make it more opaque. You just need a more opaque color. However you get it there, it doesn't really matter. But just need to cover up any. And I see some stuff over here that I kind of missed, so I'm going to put a tree branch back in here. Okay. Let's get some yellow oxide here. I'm going to mix that with this red that's in my brush. Just use a little bit of that to have another tone here. It's nice. I like it. I'm really just using a variety of these reds and kind of going over some of these areas that I've done before. Just putting in a few more obvious trees. I think I want to bring this out just a little bit more here. This canopy up here is pretty dark, all up in here.
Hey, real quick, I want to know, did you darken the grays of the mid trees?
Yes, I did.
Middle ground, okay.
Yeah, I just used a little bit more of this color. Same colors, just a little bit more of the darker. So it still had some of that yellow from the background in it.
Okay, perfect.
This is really pretty. I like this color scheme. I don't usually do yellows and golds like that, or reds and golds just on their own. I'm always kind of adding other. I always want like the whole rainbow of the colors, you know. But I really like this. This is pretty. Feels very fall. This is literally the last fall painting that we're going to be doing this year on YouTube. So if you're into that, you enjoy, because we're starting Christmas next week. I feel like we're starting late already. It's like I always get to this time of year and I'm like, I want to do more fall paintings, but it's time to start on Christmas.
What have you been doing the last few weeks?
I know, we've been having grandbabies. We've been doing the easy part, getting to hold them and change diapers and feed and all that good stuff.
Stare at them.
I know, stare at the cuteness.
Take pictures.
Put them in cute clothes. Buy cute clothes. All the good grandparent stuff. It's been awesome. And then go home and get a good night's sleep.
Exactly. No, got a solid 8 hours. How about you?
We're bad. I didn't even know that was a thing until Nathan's partner's mom. She stayed with them for the whole week and stayed up all night helping with the baby. And I'm like, is that a thing? Because I didn't have that.
Yeah, that wasn't in the agreement.
But that's obviously, wow.
That was the parental
pretty cool.
part, the grandparent part.
No, but one of my friends said that her mom did that too. I'm like, okay, I guess we missed out on that fun part.
You go ahead and do that. I noticed
I'm not volunteering for it. I'm just saying.
I noticed none of the dads did it.
I never even thought to offer it, because it never even occurred to me that was something that happened. But
we can have some Uber Eats delivered.
Really nice.
It's about as close as we'll get. We're not even going to make a casserole. We'll just order one and have it delivered.
We're pretty much, that's about our speed, isn't it? It's sad. I don't know. I'm going to go back over this little area with a little bit of yellow right there. I like a little bit more yellow. Kind of a little bit of transition between that red and the background white. I'm not going in front of these trees though with it. Just kind of right here in the middle. I don't love that. I wish I kind of hadn't done that now, but oh well, I'll just fix it. We'll just do some transition to red. Make sure you're not doing like a straight line. That's one thing that you can get into kind of a pattern rut almost when you're using these kind of brushes. You can end up doing like yellow and then red, and then, you know, you can end up with like this weird stripe thing happening. And so to avoid that, what you need to do is go up and down with it. So even if you are like trying to transition between these colors, and even here, see how I did 1, 2, 3, 4 like in a row there, just trying to make sure that you are breaking up any patterns that are happening so that you're not going to see that. And just by kind of adding a little bit of randomness, yes, to your tapping here.
Yeah, that looks like a face you just painted there.
Where?
So, on your practice.
Oh, did it?
Pen, yeah.
Okay, well, don't do face either.
Well, no, you just added the mouth part. There was already 2 eyes and a poof of hair.
Oh, I see.
Sorry for the brief look into my mind.
I saw it.
Kinda
I see it
scary.
now. Okay, so then let's go in here and just add some random darkness here and there. So just break it up a little bit. And a lot of times these, especially in the distance, these leaves and things will look kind of flat. So you can have these kind of lined, some areas that, you know, have kind of lines across. I've got a lot of paint in my brush here, so I'm trying to wipe it off here. I'm out of this brighter red, so I'm kind of trying to mix up some of it. What are you doing? Oh, cool. All right, so there we go. So there, that's nice. And then I need it much darker back here in the corner. So I'm going to get my burnt or my black now and just add that, or this dark color here, and add that down here. And just, I got some lighter color in there somehow. There must have been lighter color. Get some gray, but that's all right. And I want a little bit of this lighter color, the darker, you know, the lighter layers showing through this, the darker. So don't cover all of that red up. Just kind of tap in sort of this bottom area and kind of come up the sides a little bit to, again, kind of create that vignette where if you ever have edited a photo and added that vignette where it just darkens up the edges and corners, that's what we're doing here. So let's go ahead and do that up here. Just a little bit. We've already kind of got it dark up here, but I'm going to go a little bit darker in a couple areas here. Okay. Looks good. All right, you could leave it like that and be done. It looks really nice. I kind of wish that I had come down a little bit more back here, but I'm not really sure there's a whole lot I can do about it unless I redo that whole area, which I'm not going to do. So kind of came up a little high right there. Let me see. There we go. There's my round brush. I'm trying to see if I want to use a different brush, but I guess I'll use this. Okay, so I'm going to use this for my trees in the foreground. So this dark gray here that I've mixed up. I'm going to use black too. I don't know. I might use a little bit of black too, but we'll see. So my deer's going to go right in here. So I have this one tree that's right here that's going to, and I don't know if I want to go right up against the edge. I don't know, I'm torn. I do kind of like that look in the where I cropped it, so I guess I will. There's a lot of light. This area is a little bit lighter. So having this really dark tree right along this edge kind of helps anchor this side of the painting, I think. That looks nice. And then we'll go ahead and give it a couple branches coming up here too. You could use a liner brush for this if you wanted to. It can be a little bit difficult to get a super thin line with this thick of a brush. So if you have trouble, you can just grab your liner brush and do those thinner lines with that. I'm going to get some black and use the black over here, just kind of randomly, not really filling in, but just sort of doing some texture in that tree trunk. And then I'm going to add some light gray and use this. I kind of did a little bit of it on these background trees, but the farther back you go, the less detail you have. When you're in shadow and things, and things are in the distance, you're not going to see a lot of details. So don't waste your time putting in a ton of the details in these distant trees. Your eye's not going to pick up on those details. I mean, it's okay to do a little bit, but I wouldn't, just spend a ton of time doing a bunch of detail on any of those. But in here, we can kind of spend a little bit of time and do a little bit of tree trunk bark things. Okay, that looks good.
Can you take the gloves off?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I don't know.
Bother you?
I don't know. It's just,
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's better. Now we can see all the bling.
I'll put my bling back on,
Yeah.
too. Oops, wrong ring, wrong finger. There we go. All right. What am I looking for? I just thought of something. Oh, yeah, I need a different brush. I'm going to get a little bit thicker brush to use for my a little bit wider round. This is the Foreground in the Dakota Princeton. Okay, so this is mostly dry except for that little bit over there. I'm gonna figure out where I'm putting my deer. Okay, so he's going right there. I've already traced him out. I'm gonna go ahead and put him on. Just stay away from my wet edge there. That'll work. Okay.
So while you're tracing that there, and
Using transfer paper with the dark side down towards the canvas and tracing on the inside of the lines. Go ahead.
oh, I was going to say, and you got a brush in your mouth, but obviously you can talk with the brush in your mouth, so.
I know.
Just remind everybody about patreon.com/angelfineart, where you can support the channel and get bonus content like traceables and challenge videos and bonus videos. And you can sign up any time of the month, and it's good for a full month now. It's no longer by the calendar, which is awesome. Calendar months. This Thursday, you're starting a new challenge image.
Yes, we're painting some winter animals.
Winter animals. And then Saturday is our bonus video. And
Here we go.
it might
I
only...
moved it. I can tell I moved it.
Oh, man.
Sorry, I missed his eye. I'm just gonna do his eye. Go ahead. What?
I was going to say the bonus video may only be about 10 minutes long Saturday because it's going to be cooler. So when you get finished, we'll have a fire
Ooh,
and
what?
hot chocolate. So it might be a speed painting this Saturday.
For sure. For real, first fire of the season. Yeah.
But in all seriousness, thank you to the thousands that support us on Patreon. And it's awesome. And hopefully we can continue to offer some incredible content. Not hopefully, we will.
Yeah, the Patreon stuff is, I'm going to use this darker color just a little bit on this tree here, just to add a little detail down toward the bottom there, where it's more visible. Yeah, the Patreon content is stuff that I can't really do on YouTube because it's long, 5-6 hours. YouTube pays us very little for advertising. Hasn't gone up very much at all in the multiple years we've done this. Kind of stays, which is nice. We get a little bit money, but we don't do the YouTube is not our income. We couldn't live off of it. It's not.
Right.
It's just not feasible. And the people who do are getting millions of views a video, every video, which is not us, which is fine. We're totally fine with that. But Patreon allows us to actually make a career out of it and also paint things that I want to paint, which are the, longer, more complicated paintings that YouTube doesn't really suggest on their algorithm. They don't really like those kind of long videos. It just doesn't make sense to do them on YouTube. It actually kind of hurts our channel rather than helps it. So those are saved for patrons. We get to do them for those who are interested in that, and we try to keep them more simple type paintings too. Oh great, I just covered that whole thing with water. Simpler paintings on YouTube that are faster. So
And the
I
Patreon
lifted off there because I wet it down.
Right, and you also get access to all the previous traceables, tutorials at that level. It's not just this month, it's all of them. So your
Right.
$5 or $10 is going to get you dozens and dozens of tutorials that you don't get here on YouTube.
I think there's about 80 of each. So there's
Yeah.
about 80, I think. Don't quote me. At least 50. We've been doing it for how many years now?
Patreon since
Since
February
2017. So about 5 years.
Coming up on
Sometime.
6 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that would be about right. So 12 times that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So about 70
60.
maybe. 67. Yeah,
Yeah,
something like that. I know there's about 90 posts, but I don't know each of those
Right.
posts are actual videos.
Anyways.
Sorry. I don't
That's
know.
okay.
We're
And it helps
getting
keep us going here on
track here.
YouTube. Offer free content.
Right. And YouTube is kind of where we can find new patrons, new people who are interested in what we're doing, and let them know, that there's more available if they're interested.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't start doing YouTube because I thought I was going to make a ton of money at it. I did it because I really love teaching and I love sharing it with people. And I don't think
This is what we do.
this is what I love to do, and I have no plans to change it. Hopefully we'll still be doing this in another 10 years. We've been doing this for about 10 years now. It's pretty amazing. We were one of the very first channels to do tutorials. Well before I was doing live streaming, I was doing very, very poorly edited videos with very, very limited equipment and very poor sound equipment, especially. So,
And now I got sound effects.
yeah, exactly.
Enough said.
If you want a real treat, you can watch some of our really old videos.
I've said it before. It's amazing we had any followers back then.
We have some that have stuck with us this
Yeah.
whole time too, which is pretty cool. But yeah, we've expanded doing new things, but I don't think we're ever going to change our main focus, which is just kind of making sure people know that it's possible to paint.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many people grow up thinking that just because they weren't good at it the first time they tried art, that somehow they weren't artistic and they weren't real artists, and that they didn't have the artistic whatever. And so many of my friends and so many people who have learned to paint with me were like, I never thought that this was something that I could do. And it's just, I don't know, for some reason our generation has been brainwashed into thinking that to be a real artist, you have to, know how to draw and know how to do all this stuff innately, and that you should just be able to sit down at it and do it right for the first time. But I don't know one artist that has been able to do that. They've all had to work at it and, grow their skills, and I'm still learning things, so it's like I don't know where that thought comes from, but it's not true. And you can learn to paint. You just have to know the right techniques and skills and things. It's not something that's just for the art elite or whatever. There's I've heard them Ginger Cook, Cinnamon Cook, or Cinnamon Cooney, Ginger Cook. That's her mom. They both do YouTube videos, and I was watching one of their things the other day, and they were calling them gatekeepers. That there's gatekeepers out there that want to keep art exclusively for, the right people or whatever, and if you're not doing it a certain way, that you're not a real artist, quote unquote, and it's just not the case, I don't know why you would limit somebody from doing something that's so enjoyable, and so you get so many health benefits and mental benefits from doing it, and so much joy. And it can be frustrating. It's like anything, though. Learning to paint is no different from learning to play the piano or learning to ski or learning to do any new skill, you have to practice it and get better. And if you do practice it, you will get better. It's just the amount of time you put into it. All right, this is starting to look pretty good. I'm liking it. So I think I'm going to put a couple of trees in here in the foreground by our deer, but I'm not going to put as many as are in the photo. I don't think we need to. And I'm looking at these ones in the background that maybe I want to keep. So let's go ahead and do one here. It's going to kind of skim next to him, but then go up. And if your paint's breaking up like that, that just means I need more water. Just don't have enough water in my paint. It's just getting kind of dry on the brush, and it starts to break up like that. Dog is being a pain today. Nice. Okay. Let's do another one. I'm going to get a little bit of this gray. These ones in the middle here are kind of getting a little more of the gray. Hi, Fitzpickle. What are you doing? Is Spencer here?
Yeah, Spencer's here.
What?
Did you see Spencer?
Spencer's like one of his favorite people. All right. Yeah, that's looking good. So we're getting some really good foreground, middle ground action. I kind of think I wish I'd done another mid-ground tree, but I'm going to do the deer in that mid-ground gray. So I think that that'll make up for not having as many of this mid-ground trees. Because I probably could have done another one right here in this dark gray, the mid-gray color, but it's too late now. I'm not going to mess with it. Get a little bit wider with it. Yeah, that's nice. I like it. I like it. Okay, so I don't want to go on top of that necessarily, and I don't want to go completely around it either, so I'm going to have to kind of cover up part of it. I'm going right down off the canvas on this foreground. Okay, love it. Okay, well, I think one more over here, small one. I think I need one that's kind of coming on this side of this guy. Skirting him a little closer. A little bit wider than that, maybe. Nice. And he's just going to be kind of a ghost emerging out of the forest here, so I want him to be kind of a light color. This is where I could get my small angle brush, or my small round brush, my script liner out, and do some of these with the smaller brush. It's up to you. Whatever you find more easy to use. All right, let's go ahead and start filling in our deer. I'll go ahead and just keep on using this color. And I'm going to use a little bit of the yellow from our background. Maybe a little bit of burnt sienna in there. Unbleached titanium. Just making a light gray. There we go. That's kind of similar to that color. Slightly different in tone, maybe a little bit more. It's actually a little bit green, which is fine. Yeah, that's nice. So he's gonna kind of feel like he's part of that misty, distant stuff. And then I'm gonna go a little bit darker right on this ruff that is right under his chin. And right under his belly. I'm just kind of mixing it into that lighter color. So we're getting kind of a variation in shade. Maybe a little bit on the rump there. I'm using the same brush. It's actually doing a pretty good job. You could switch to another brush if you are having trouble controlling it, though. You can switch to like the number 4 round or even a smaller round. But this is going on pretty nicely for me. And when at the feet, I'm gonna just smush it around, kind of like the trees, and sort of just have it go down in there. You use the darker color right up under the body there. And this one's actually kind of bent. Do not leave me a comment saying his legs are too narrow. If you've ever seen a deer, their legs are tiny compared to their body. Obviously, the person who left me that comment has never seen an actual deer, because they do have tiny little legs. They don't look like they should lift to be able to hold them up, but they do. I get the funniest comments sometimes. Like, do you Google?
And
can you Google?
And they're always very helpful.
If you look that up, you probably see that you're really wrong.
And then you immediately went back and refixed your painting right after that
Right.
comment.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, not like I could do anything about it at that point.
You dropped everything and
Right. I like went back in time and fixed it.
good job. You were amazing.
Mm-hmm. But I was informed that this is an elk, not a deer. Although the elk are part of the deer family, so I'd still put deer in the title because I was afraid that somebody looking for a deer would not find this painting if I didn't have deer in the title, so I kind of left it in there. But it is an elk. So. And I have seen the difference, and they are huge compared to deer. And what we saw there coming out of Arizona that one time at night on the side of the road?
No.
What were they?
Those are... Well, maybe.
They were elk.
Definitely not moose.
No, they're not moose. Not reindeer. We don't get those in our area.
No. I guess so. For some reason I was thinking of something else, but...
Maybe they, I don't know. What other kind of deer are they? A lot of deer, but in the U.S. I mean, not worldwide. Okay, filling in the face with kind of a lightish brown, a little bit lighter brown. And again, just I kind of went over here with a little bit of dry brush using the edge of the brush and just kind of scraped along the side to get a little texture there. So probably didn't need that much light, but you got the idea.
Yeah, I guess they were elk. I don't know why that's not
Not
computing in my brain, but we had to drive down from Pine Top down to Phoenix one time, and your aunt and uncle let us borrow their Suburban because driving along the mountain road.
Because we had a little Mazda.
Yeah, 323.
Yeah, little tiny car, and they were like, "Yeah, if you hit an elk, you'd die."
It would go right through your windshield and kill you.
Yeah.
So they gave us something more beefy.
To help protect, and we saw a lot of them, a lot. And like the thing that scared us the most was the signs along the road. We're like, watch for. There's these huge signs, just like watch for the elk. They will kill you. Basically, is all the signs. The whole drive down is just like at night they come out, all these big flashing lights. Like, okay, well, this obviously happens enough that they had to.
Yeah. This is where you pick up.
Exactly. Like, oh man, I feel for the people who were the first ones that had to go through that to warrant the sign having to be made. Okay, so dark around the eyes here, just a little bit in the eye socket, not really worrying too much about it, and then dark around the nose here and the mouth area, and the muzzle, just kind of like a circle right there at the end of the face. And I will come back in and kind of adjust that a little bit, but even just doing that, you get the idea. It's kind of, you're already getting the feeling for it from a distance. You're not seeing a ton of detail, so you don't have to put it all in. Dark in the ears. Nice, okay. And I'm just gonna kind of take that dark and just kind of tap in around the feet and give it a little bit of a shadow. Like that. I wish I had a mid-ground tree right here. I'm just gonna do it because I want it. Well, I don't know how I'm gonna get it back past all that though. Run the gauntlet of all those branches and things. I'd have to do the whole, I'm going to go ahead and I'll do a darker one. I'll do it all the way up. I don't know, maybe I don't need it. Okay. Getting the black. And going to do 2 little dots on either side of the nostrils. There, in my eyes, nice and dark. Right there. Do a kind of a line for the mouth, and then some of that lighter color, the unbleached titanium, kind of. Put it around the muzzle. It's still pretty wet right there, so I'm going to have to let it dry. Put a little bit of scrub for the ear hair. A little bit of that dark. Coming down, let's get some black here and add that. Okay, and then make sure your brush can do, you can probably switch to a little bit smaller brush. This one is probably right on the limits of my ability to do these thin little lines with it. They want to go thick. And go a little bit thicker with this one. These aren't symmetrical either, so they don't have to match up. I'm going to kind of match them up somewhat more than it is in the photo, though. Maybe give this one a little extra something coming off. We had a deer in our yard the other day. He had how many points? I'm trying to remember. Mark's not listening.
I want to say it was 6 or 8 point. Couldn't really tell on the camera. He didn't get that close.
He was going after my tree. I have a tree that has really pretty flowers on it, and they like to eat the flower buds off of them. Little turkeys.
Unfortunate for them, we had already had the frost, and so it pretty much shut that
Killed
down.
them, yeah, so they haven't been coming around as much.
But yeah, we got a little family. There was a mama and a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Came through.
Yeah.
And then I saw, like, it was like 8 or 10 throughout the neighborhood when I went to work one day last week.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
In different spots. They weren't all together.
Oh, I see.
Like 3 or 4 here, and a couple there, and a couple there. Yeah.
Nice.
All the hunters are scaring them out of the woods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of hunting going on in our area right now. Okay. There you go. So I'm going to go use that. I'm just going to kind of dry brush, tapping in on the inside of the eyes, kind of coming in a V shape right here, kind of from the forehead in. Kind of darkening up that area, leaving a little bit of light over the eyebrow areas. Okay, and then going darker. Why don't we zoom in here, honey? We're really far away. There we go. Okay. kind of square out his jaw a little bit right here. It kind of comes out a little bit more before it comes down. Give him light over the eyes and light down the nose. And then just using this gray with my unbleached titanium for these colors. Going a little bit darker here. Just tapping that in so it's a little bit more integrated with the face. Alright, I'm pretty close to being done here. There's a little bit of lighter color coming down from the chin right there. And I think I'm going to go a little bit lighter on the just above the nose. Just kind of tapping and maybe a little up the nose there. And then on the nose itself also, I'm going to go kind of a light gray. And there's kind of a V shape above the nostrils. So I went over the nostrils. Dark, dark. And then kind of dark coming across. And then on top of the nose, there's just like a little U shape right there. Widening out that nose a little bit more. Okay, I think that's going to be good. Don't need a ton of detail on there. Let's go ahead and add just a tiny touch of like a highlight on the antlers here and there. Maybe just a little bit of lighter, like a thin wash of color here. Make sure my eye has a little bit of roundness to it on the outside edges. There we go. Okay, I'm good with that. Go ahead and zoom back out. Let's see what we look like. And if your feet don't look like they're attached to the ground, you can, get some lighter reds and just kind of tap in some leaves around the feet to help, integrate it a little bit better. And I'm going to use this brush and just use up the rest of my paint here in these reds and just create some leafy shapes. So I'm just going to kind of set my brush on its side to do that. If I set it on its side, it's going to create a little oval, kind of pointed shape. And I'm going to keep my my brush kind of setting on its side. I'm not going to point it down much. I'm going to kind of assume that these leaves are kind of attached, kind of coming across, so they're not pointing down. And if you want to, you can use an angle brush for this too. I like using my angle brushes for leaf shapes because you can get even more variety of shapes than I can with this brush. That's looking good. Let's go ahead and get some of this darker color. What time is it? Oh, we're doing really good. An hour and a half, no problem. I can usually tell the difficulty of a project if I can get it done in an hour or just under, or just over an hour, then I know that it'll be one that is doable for a beginner, because anything longer than that, I think people tend to get a little overwhelmed, you know? It's just a lot of steps. So if I can keep the steps a little bit more simplified. The hardest part is obviously going to be the deer, and another way of doing the deer that would be super simple is to use this color and just do them black. Do him a solid silhouette and don't worry about any of the detail, and he'll look just as good. You might even do him in a lighter gray, but you definitely don't have to do all the detail that I did on mine, and it'll still look just great. So I have an older video that has a deer. We just actually posted it on my TikTok, so if you want it, and Instagram too, a few days ago. So if you want to see that one, or you can just go to my channel and or search for Angela Anderson deer. It'll pop up as one of the ones. The background was kind of a greenish color. It did have red trees also, oddly enough. And but it was even more simplified than this one as far as the deer goes. You know, a lot easier kind of deer. So I think we did a really good job of leaving some of that feeling of space in there with some of these trees back in here. I'm going to get a little bit of my lighter, just add some unbleached titanium to this orangey color here, and do some more leaves in these trees that are way back here. Obviously, we got to be careful about the deer, but then I can also kind of use this to add some variety of leaves here in the mid-ground. Nice. Maybe some of this behind the deer. Just kind of giving it a different feeling from the foreground. There's also some kind of mid-ground bushes here that are having some small leaves that are showing up too. So we didn't put any of those in, but you could have. Alright, did I miss anything? Did I leave feet off or anything like that I tend to do when I get into it? One thing I could do here, and I might just do it really quick here at the end, is get some of my glaze and some of my darkest red. This has to be dry, so make sure it's dry, and I'm just going to kind of pull up with this. What this is going to do is kind of tone and tint this edge. See how it's kind of gonna darken up and tint this whole bottom part of the canvas. Kind of, it does, we did the vignette kind of thing. This is just, it actually kind of unifies. So it makes some of this area that is tinted look a little softer and more like a glow is happening of this red. So anywhere where I want to maybe kind of pull together all the reds into a little bit more of a feeling. See how that is softening everything up a little bit? Glazing is a great way of quickly, easily altering the feeling of your painting. It kind of makes it feel like a smoky red is happening back here. Along the sides, just kind of creeping in to the middle area. Just toning. Again, you can leave this part out. Make sure you're not using a lot of paint. I have hardly any paint on my brush. Just very lightly. Oops, and those were still wet, so they were trying to lift. So I'm gonna just leave that area alone. But yeah, I like it. I think that's good. That just added a little bit extra glow. I could do it with the yellow too, and I'm tempted to do it with the yellow, but there's a lot of wetness happening there. Let me wipe my hands off. If you go and buy rings, tell them that I sent you. I don't get a kickback, but maybe I'll get some free stuff. Yeah, I watched Julio Iglesias. Is that his name? No, not Julio Iglesias. What's the guy
Fluffy.
on Netflix? Fluffy. Yeah, what's his name? I can't think of his name.
Remember his name. The comedian.
Yeah. Anyhow, he was talking about how he tags companies in his Instagram so he can get free stuff. He got a free Chipotle card for a whole year one time by tagging Chipotle.
Yeah, like Twitter or something like that.
Like, yeah.
People are calling him out for something. He goes, "Look, I'm not trying to make any political statements
I'm
or
just
like
trying
that.
to get free stuff."
I'm just trying to get free stuff.
I was like, okay, maybe that'll work for me. We did get free tea one time when we mentioned my favorite tea company. They did send me free tea, so it works. They didn't give me free tea for life or for a whole year even. They just gave me like a couple of things, but it was still really cool.
Very unexpected.
Very unexpected, and it was very nice. And I think somebody had just said when they bought theirs that I'd sent them there.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so that's dry enough now. I'm going to use the yellow oxide and just tint back some of the edges with that here. Just leave this area darker, and this can go over the top of my red too to make my red a little bit more orangey yellow. Yeah, that's beautiful. Love it. I really like this one. I like how it turned out. I hope you guys do too. This has been really fun, and I definitely think it's doable. I don't think that this has been, the tree trunks may give you a little bit of pause. If you are not familiar with using a liner brush or anything like that, I would suggest watching my video. It's Beginner Basics #1, and it's all about lining. Using a liner brush, using the key to using a liner brush is fluid paint. Fluid paint. If you don't have your paint thin enough, you're not going to get a thin line. So you have to have very fluid, thin paint, like milk consistency, in order to get a nice, smooth, thin line on your tree trunks here. Good brush that comes to a good point. And again, I would probably have used a smaller brush. If you're not experienced with using a round brush, using a thinner brush that can't go any fatter than you want it to, so if I don't want my line to go thicker than that, then use a brush that's that thin, and that will make it impossible for you to get super thick lines on your trees and things. So All right, that's it. I'm calling that good.
Okay, well,
Ooh, a
hold
lot of
on.
fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Hold on.
Give it a thumbs up and like and subscribe if you haven't already and all that good stuff. I'm going to sign it while you're
Doing super chat.
signing off. Ooh, super chats. Yeah.
Super chat.
Super chat.
So we had 2 super chatters tonight.
Wonderful.
This first super chatter chatted early and fell off our little thing here, so I
Oh.
can't display it. But it was from Marie, and
Marie.
there was no special message. But I think she
Oh.
liked the idea of painting a tank in there. So thank you, Marie.
She was like,
Swan
here's
I'm
some
claiming.
money for a tank.
Yep. And,
Shiba dog clapping his hands. Oh, no, that's the next one, huh?
and then from G Dave, yeah, Shiba dog clapping his hands.
I love it.
So thank you, G Dev.
Thank you. Oh,
And then we had a couple questions.
I wish it actually showed it.
I know. All right, the first question or statement was so when they add water to their student grade paints, they usually get bubbles in them.
Ooh,
So,
interesting.
do you have any advice?
Bubbles in your paint. I don't know what that would be from.
Maybe agitating it too hard,
Yeah,
or
maybe, but-
trying to mix it too.
That's very weird. I don't know that I've ever had that happen. That's bubbles.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. You can blow on it and wait.
So it's like a video
I
game,
would
huh?
say, are you using it sounds like what's happening if you're shaking up your paint, like if you're using a student level and it's like a craft acrylic and you're shaking it up, then you're adding air in there and you probably need to let it set. That sounds like what would happen. Because if you if you were to shake up any of your like mediums and things, they usually say, to let it set before you use it to let the air bubbles kind of dissipate. So that's what it sounds like to me is happening. Like the acrylic polymer is probably getting agitated somehow with whatever it is you're doing. Maybe like really working that paint into, but I mean, you see me doing it. I think it may just have to do with the amount that there's more of the acrylic polymer in those kind of paints, and that it is acting that way. It is getting agitated with the way you're mixing it. So maybe go a little gentler when you're mixing. I'm not really sure, but I'm sorry that's happening.
All right. And then the question came in towards the end there. They would like to know, how did you make the glaze? And they were referring to when you were doing the kind of the vignette. Red.
It was the darker red. So the darkest red was, I think the color was black plus these two.
Now it was
Maybe a
just
little bit burnt umber.
just the paint. You didn't mix any glazing liquid or
I did
anything.
mix glazing liquid into it, yes.
You did.
Yes.
Okay. So glazing liquid with some of the red paint.
Right.
And barely.
You can
any
see
in.
how thin it is. So you have to be able to see through it on your palette.
Let me do this close up palette here. Maybe you can see. Oh yeah.
It's very thin. Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to see through it on your palette for it to be able to be a thin glaze. If it's too thick on your palette, it will go on thick on your canvas, and then you're not actually going to be glazing. You're going to be painting over things. So I don't want to cover what I've already done. I just want it to be tinted a little bit darker and a little bit more red. So
And then
you're just adding color to it. You're not trying to cover anything up. You're not trying to that's the thing with glaze. I mean, you think about, it's like a tint through a window. That's, like a stained glass window maybe. Like you could go up to it and see it. So if that's what we're doing here. We're just tinting it a little brush of color, but we still want to see all of our detail that we've already painted. Just toning it a little bit.
Very good.
Okay.
And then you signed the painting with what?
My PBO, I think it is. PBO acrylic marker, 0.7 millimeter. 0.7 is the highest I would go when you're trying to Anything more than that is too thick.
And if they need art supplies, where should they
It
go?
is down at in the description. I have a link to Amazon, my Amazon shop, and also to blick.com. And those two will have lists of the acrylic paints and brushes and supplies and things that I use. I would say Blick is probably cheaper than Amazon in some cases. When it comes to art supplies, they generally are a little bit cheaper. So, kind of know what your prices are. There's also a link to the brush guys, so they also have a deal there. If you use my code Angela Fine Art at the brush guys, if you're just looking for brushes, they have really good prices on brushes. So they're also in the description there.
So it's holiday season. Brushes make great stocking stuffers.
Exactly.
Let your friends and family know to come to one of the videos. Click the Brush Guys link. Buy one of the beginner sets or intermediate sets.
Be sure to use the code, though.
Use the code.
You get 5% off, and I get credit for sending you.
Right.
So, but yes, that's. I forgot to do the highlights on these trees over here.
I knew I went too long.
I'm sorry. I just realized that
This is the final dress rehearsal. Next week's the real thing.
Oak Island is starting next week. Oh boy.
This is the year.
This is the year they're going to find something?
Yes.
I doubt it. I doubt it very highly. I've thought that last year. They fooled me last year. I was like, okay, they're getting serious, and they're like cutting into stuff, and they're like making, they're being a little more scientific about it, not just like going off of old maps and guessing. They're like,
fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 6 times, shame on me.
how many seasons now?
Oh, it's like
Fool me 12 seasons?
something like
then
that. Yeah.
I'm really,
yeah.
I'm a glutton. If it's all my fault at this point. It's our fault for
I'm rooting for him.
for falling for it for so many years now. It's just, I don't know. Okay, so
This
I'm
hour
just
changed too.
What?
This hour changed also. It's making me tired. It's already my bedtime.
Oh, is it? Okay, sorry.
Under the old rules.
I see. Okay, just putting in little lines here for my tree trunks, and then kind of getting the darker tone and going next to them with the kind of a mid-tone to kind of blend them in a little bit, because they're kind of obvious in some places. But you could use a more textured brush. I'm being kind of lazy by using my Foreground here, but you get the idea. Okay, there we go. That's it for real now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate you so much. And please share our videos, like them. They really does help when you leave a comment, when you like our videos, when you share them. All of that really helps us be able to keep doing what we're doing and share what we're doing with other people. So, and if you do these videos, I've got links down in the description to my social media where you can share them with me. I absolutely love to see what you've painted from my tutorials. It really makes my day. So thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.